Greetings, everyone. My name is Trevor Palacios here at Marin TV. First and foremost, we want to encourage and invite everyone to visit us at www.cmcm.tv. This is a locally people-operated media system, so we encourage everyone again to support this. Here today we have the Task Force on the Americas, Sister Diana Bone, Sister Maria Robin, who were recently sent over to Honduras. They sponsored a delegation to observe the elections and the human rights concerns in Honduras. So today we will be talking about what is happening in Honduras with Juan Orlando Hernandez. We want to backtrack a little bit and talk about the history. June the 28th of 2009, there was a coup d'etat in Honduras that was co-sponsored by the United States of America. Then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton vouched for it, supported it, and for many reasons we wondered why it was that she did this, but we found out later what it was that caused her to be involved in it, and that has caused much trials and tribulations, mostly in the lives of the indigenous people that surround Honduras. And this group, speaking for myself first and foremost, we trabalhamos aí Honsungo by Garifuna Noguya, Mambrigoma Honsungari no Honduras. We have the Garifuna people there, we have the Mestizo, we have the Lenca, the Mesquitos, the Pech, the Tawakas, and the Mayo Shorty groups and indigenous people that are being violated every single day for their land rights, violated every single day politically, which is again what we're experiencing in Honduras 2018 with Juan Orlando. And according to the Security and Defense Network of Latin America, as quoted in the BBC, Honduras is scheduled to be funded $172 million this year alone. Know this, the police state in Honduras is militarized. Military tactics are utilized daily to violate the human rights of the said groups that I just mentioned to you, from the Garifuna to Lenca individuals like Berta Cáceres that was killed. And it is your tax dollar, it is our tax dollars that are funding, again, the consistent human right violation of many individuals in Honduras. And again, it is our military that is training, that is funding everything that is actually going on right now in Honduras. The only historical or recent historical coup d'etat that reminds us of what's going on right now in Honduras was the coup in Haiti 2004. And the group that we currently represent today is Alianza Hondureña USA NorCal with our president, Porfirio Quintano. We're about to go into a video, briefly 3-minute video, which will show you what is going on in Honduras 2017 because of Juan Orlando Hernandez, followed by a discussion with attorney Grecia Lozano.
Levanto la mano, los corruptos salen, hoy los sacamos. No me digas que no he robado, no te creo, no. Y date cuenta que el pueblo ya se despertó. Escucha mi voz, no soy solo yo. Ese pueblo indignado que se preguntó. ¿Y cuál es la ruta? ¿Y cuál es la ruta? ¿Cómo llama tu mamá? me sigas engañando. Se muere la gata mientras tú sigues viajando. ¿Cuál es la ruta? ¿Cuál es la ruta? Mientras el pueblo sufre, nuestros billetes disfruta. ¿Dónde están los millones del seguro? Te hace el loco y ese billete no es tuyo. ¿Cuál es la ruta? ¿Cuál es la ruta? Mientras el pueblo sufre, nuestros billetes disfruta. Se quieren robar todo del país. Por eso estoy aquí protestando. Nadie me pagó, lo hago porque quiero, porque nos están robando. No quiero tu dinero porque es el piso del pueblo. Yo no quiero dependerte por solo 50 pesos. Me cansé de mantenerte con mis ahorros del seguro y lo único que quiero es que saquen estos corruptos. Para él no es ofensa, se le llamen delincuente porque es un ladrón honesto y lo sabe toda la gente. Los medios se venden y lo han demostrado. Que el pueblo no sea noticia, es campo pagado. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. Los medios corruptos siempre serán vendidos. Todos han robado, eso no lo dudo, pero ustedes se robaron el billete del seguro. Tomarme 15 frutas.
¡Ganamos!
Will the country of Honduras ever recover from the aftermath of Hillary Clinton 2009? It's up to you and I. It's up to you and I. Once again, Sister Gracie, Lozano speaks a little bit more about the history of what has brought us to this point here in 2018.
Hello, my name is Grecia Lozano. Today we're going to speak about the political crisis in Honduras. I come from Honduras and I used to be the National Secretary of Youth of Libertad y Refundación political party. I would like to start speaking about a little background of what happened in 2009 in Honduras. As you may know, or as you may heard, there was a coup d'etat who was orchestrated against el presidente Manuel Zelaya Rosales. He was the victim of this coup. So why do I start with this? Because after the coup, there was a lot of protests of the people. There was a lot of social movements in the streets and internationally also speaking about it.
Yeah, don't worry.
So after the coup d'etat, there was this person whose name is Juan Orlando Hernández. Juan Orlando Hernández was the General Secretary of the Congress of Honduras, and he was the head of Partido Nacional, who is the actual government in Honduras. The political crisis right now, it's because there were elections on November 26, and a lot of people, like 80% of the people, voted for one candidate named Salvador Narrala, and this candidate is denouncing the lack of transparency of the elections. So people is really angry right now, and people is like protesting very much in Honduras. People is giving their lives in Honduras right now because the actual president became re-elected by this electoral system who's been making fraud. So why do we say this? And I would like to explain what happened in 2012. When Juan Orlando, the actual president of Honduras, was the secretary of the Congress because he was a congressman before he became a president, he changed illegally the general attorney of Honduras. The general attorney is in charge of prosecute the crimes. So he destituted, he removed the actual general attorney, and he put one of his friends as a general attorney because he had the faculty to do that. But he did it 5 months in advance of the law, of the written in the law. So it was illegal. And after that, he released a project in the Congress called SEDES, which is the specific zones for development, it's called in English. And so this project was rejected for the majority of the Congress because it had the objective to sell some parts of the country. So many people was against that, and the court also was against that. So the Constitutional Court in Honduras said that that this project was unconstitutional. So what Juan Orlando did as a secretary of the Congress, when the Constitutional Court, said that this project was not allowed to be implemented in Honduras, is that he accused the Constitutional Court to be related to narco-traffic and organized crime. And he put a denounce against them in the Congress, and because he had the majority of the Congress, they removed the Constitutional Court illegally. Because in Honduras, when you choose a court, the court has to be chosen by the Congress and for an 8-year period. So he removed the Constitutional Court before that period. And because they were opposed to this project to sell the land in Honduras and sell the sovereignty of the country. So after he removed the magistrates, he put his friends as magistrates in the Constitutional Court because he had the majority in the Congress. So then you have a person who has a friend as a general attorney and a friend in the Constitutional Court. And then again, there was an investigation of an organization, international organization called the MAXI. MAXI is like an anti-corruption agency who's investigating the corruption cases in the state. So they discovered and published days ago that there were transactional and bank movements of the president of Honduras, given like from 1 to 11 million lempiras currency to the Congress people to choose the court that benefited him. The national constitution of Honduras says that it's prohibited for a person to be a presidential candidate if he's been in that charge for 4 years. So there was a couple of Congress people from the same party of Juan Orlando that went to the court and made a constitutional claim saying that it was against human rights to prohibit the re-election for the president. So the court said, yes, it's against human rights, so let's allow Juan Orlando to become president again. So right now we have like this president who is an illegal candidate because there's proof that he bought people in the Congress and in the court to change the law to become president. And you have like many irregularities that that these people here in the table will speak about because they've been close observing and knowing what the people is struggling right now in Honduras.
We have the Task Force on the Americas based here in Marin County.
The task force was founded originally to give sanctuary to the Salvadorans who were being repressed in the 80s and has continued to expand its mission. And you can look up for Task Force on the Americas, Marin Task Force on the Americas on our webpage and find out more about that. We also have a Facebook page that keeps up with a lot of the current events fairly quickly on time. So it's expand to all the Americas from beginning with El Salvador.
And of course, one of the things that the Marin Task Force has done, Task Force on the Americas, is to sponsor delegations.
Okay.
We were involved in the Honduran elections 4 years ago. Victory. This time, because much to our own surprise, the opposition party was winning in the early votes. All of a sudden they stopped counting.
Mm-hmm.
That particular night, we were waiting for results, and they kept, the first time the results were announced, there was 57% of the vote in, and Nasrallah was leading, the opposition candidate. And then all of a sudden, everything stopped, and of course the electoral commission, which is dominated by Juan Orlando,
Mm-hmm.
was they had supposedly computer glitches. They couldn't find ballots, so forth and so on, and it has taken days and days and days to, quote, recount. And this is a computerized system that is quite sophisticated, and it should have been foolproof,
right.
But it is not tamper-proof.
Hey, what does the Task Force of America? So you're there to collect information, to see if there are any human rights violations. Once you find out that there are any, what's the plan thereafter?
Well, the idea is to denounce the fraud of the elections, and we were definitely asked in the demonstrations to go back to our country and denounce the fraud and now call for new elections. They asked us to stay with them and not to abandon them, and the Hondurans, and keep at it, which is what we will do.
Okay, and
raising awareness is critical for us to do.
So we just went to Barbara Lee's office,
Right.
in the Oakland office, and talked and asked for her to make a statement, as have several Congress people. And we immediately started calling from Honduras. We called our Congress people and our senators, and we're continuing to do that and calling on them to not recognize the fraudulent elections, to call for new elections, which now the Organization of American States has actually called for that after some time. At first they were saying it was okay and it was too bad that Nasrallah wasn't accepting the results.
Right.
And they've somehow come around to say that there needs to be a
It's
new
fraudulent.
election.
Right.
And Senator Kane has said that.
Okay.
Jan Schakowsky originally, she came out with a statement. So we're pressing to call the Congress people and the senators to call for a new election, to stop the violence, stop the killings,
Right.
and stop any kind of aid to Honduras, as has been said before. So
Right.
we're continuing to press for that.
Okay, all right. So it's safe to say that we're experiencing another coup d'état in Honduras,
Looks
sure.
like it, yeah.
right? Because
And
not
it's-
too many. I haven't heard too many people say coup
Not
in
yet.
Honduras. Like we heard coup in 2009, and I'm looking forward to hearing someone say, okay, coup d'état in Honduras once again.
So we just want to make sure people keep paying attention to what is happening, because it's not over. The people are still in the streets and still want our support.
Yes. If we could talk a little bit about TPS, because which is the temporary protection.
Temporary protected status, yes.
Temporary protected status, which is applicable to not only people in Honduras, but other places as well. But we're speaking about Honduras right now. Human rights violations are being violated. Human rights are being violated.
Left and right. No
Left
question.
and right in Honduras. As a Garifuna man, a lot of my people migrate to this country, one, for the opportunity that comes with it. For the most part, when we started migrating here 100 years ago, that was the reason.
Immigrants. The Trump administration is threatening to remove it from the Salvadorans, Hondurans, Nicaraguans, Syrians, Haitians, and send them back to situations of the threatening violence. And many came to the United States, as we know, because of the wars the United States has initiated.
Right.
So they're not immigrants just coming here because they think it'd be fun.
Right.
They're coming here because they're escaping wars and
Okay,
situations the United States put
So
out.
Diane, what you're saying is there is a direct correlation between the influx of immigrants coming in and the damage that our country,
Yep.
the United States of America, is doing,
Yep,
right?
that's true. So that's one thing that can be done, but it also to call the senators and representatives about that as well.
Marie, anything you could add to that?
Just that we can see how, for example, I have a dear friend in Kansas City who is hosting it's not so much, it just shows you how much violence there is, a mother and 4 kids who the father was assassinated right in front of their eyes. And they had to flee, needless to say, and that was on the North Coast, and another human rights activist. So, people are leaving not only for economic, advantage, but they're fighting for their lives.
Right, right.
So,
And 2 things that we have not had a chance to touch up on too much is the fact that Juan Orlando Hernandez is a drug dealer.
Yep.
The guy, for those who have watched, and we're not here to promote anything, but for those who watch El Chapo on Netflix,
No, but
it's a very interesting show because it's talking about how El Chapo managed to work himself up from the very bottom to the very top of the food chain, right? By doing exactly what Juan Orlando has done in Honduras. Because at some point, El Chapo had presidential aspirations because he figured out that he can pay his way all the way to the very top. So one, we want to remind the world that Juan Orlando Hernández is a drug dealer. Él es una persona que vende drogas, está involucrado con las drogas en toda parte del mundo. Que sepan todos. Number 2, other than the dope money that is supporting his initiatives and taking advantage and violating human rights, we have many Canadian citizens in Honduras who are, and this message is going out to the Canadian brothers and sisters, we have 2 individuals, for an instance, Patrick Forsyth, Porn King,
right.
Randy Jurgensen. These individuals have the pockets of Juan Orlando Hernandez filled. So it's just not drug money, but we have kingpins like Patrick Forsyth and Randy Jurgensen who are financing this entire movement in Honduras. Is the Task Force of America looking at outside international influence other than the United States? Because we know we're in there.
yes, in fact, we are part of a group called the Honduras Solidarity Network, and we have a representative who's Canadian, who has lived there for 8 years. She originally started with Rights Action. We are basically funding her. She is one of the most knowledgeable people about Honduras, and she has a blog called Aquí Abajo, and she has a Twitter feed called Honduras Sol, and that's one of the ways that we've been keeping up. But she has been very, very adamant about her opposition because she's visited. We actually had a delegation to Trujillo and also to Sambo Creek.
Okay.
We were also in Roatan. All these areas, Cayos Cochinos,
Okay.
all the areas that are where people Hondureños are being expropriated
Right.
by these land developers,
Right.
and we've seen colonies of homes that are these very fancy homes
Right.
that are on property that are owned by Garifuna and and others. So we have, as I say, the Honduras Solidarity Network is both U.S. and Canadian,
Okay.
and we've had some strong support from Canadians.
And we
And
also-
part of the problems are Canadians too.
Right.
And we also saw last year on a different delegation that I went on, we saw the place where Randy Jurgensen has his fancy hotel, and where they're cutting off the Garifuna that live north of there, cutting off their livelihood
Right.
because they want the rest of their land, and that is part of the so-called Alliance for Prosperity, which is prosperity for people like Randy Jurgensen,
Right.
You don't need
but not
money.
by the
Yeah.
people. So it's a horrifying situation all around, and we're keeping on top of it.
And I think the other issue, which you sort of indirectly referred to, is there's no rule of law.
Right.
And so a Randy Jurgensen can get what he wants.
Right.
You know, he can pay off the local mayor and the whatever. I know there have been tremendous scandals with that.
Right.
They can use the local military as paramilitary
Right.
to force people off land. There have been incredible.
I'm very impressed and very proud of the Honduran people 2018, because what's happened in 2018 since November 26, people have been on the streets.
The thing I loved was when the government declared a curfew. People decided to fight with pots and pans, so they went into their homes and actually went to the streets and started banging the pots and pans. I thought, this was so wonderfully ludicrous,
Right.
that you have this threat to national security, which is people banging, these lethal weapons that are pots and pans.
Right.
Then the police refused to enforce the curfew. They stood down and went back to their barracks.
A couple of weeks ago, that the military, the police refused to honor that. I was impressed about that.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
that says that the people are actually, they've had enough and won't take it anymore. Who we just want the world to understand, it's not who is supported by the people. That is not who the people want. And if the United States of America makes a decision today, just like Marie just said, if the U.S. decides today that Juan Orlando Hernandez is going to be president of Honduras, it's done. It's a wrap. And again, the only thing that we jeopardize because of the power that we are is democracy.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's the other wonderful thing is this whole election is just showing, that Hondurans want democracy too.
Yes, yes.
And it's sort of like, no, you can't take that away from us.
You can't.
So we ask people, we're supposed to be funding, with all the American aid and so forth, promoting democracy. Well, this is a real democracy
Yeah.
happening.
Right.
So we can't take our eyes off it. So we just ask everybody to keep paying attention, look at the block, and just don't let it, we can't get distracted. And our representative in Honduras is saying, and she's out in the streets, every day, that the country is basically ready to explode. There's never been this much disruption and fear and repression in the history of the country.
Right.
So we are on we're watching a potential bonfire too.